How you guys doing this weekend? No intro or anything here. I've been here for about 3 hours now, on and off, looking at projections, looking at lineups, and really figuring out not only how I want to go about making lineups and choosing drivers this week, but also how to make the video this weekend. This is a really interesting slate, and I think it all surrounds the fact that, at least in my opinion, I think Larson is underpriced, and I think every single driver here is overpriced. And so this is a really interesting situation. And normally, during the month on Patreon, I usually choose one race between all the series, Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series, to put out on Patreon for $1 or $3. And I haven't done that this weekend. And this is the first time this year to where I really feel like a video showing projections and showing lineup construction really makes a lot of sense versus just doing a driver-by-driver breakdown, because I believe that, along with doing ceiling and floor projections, elevates plays that or either aren't as, like, it elevates what I think are bad plays and maybe elevates them to a sense to where they're even with actual good plays and stuff. And so hopefully that kind of makes sense. And so this is the first time this year that I'm actually going to do this, and I'm going to show projections. I'm going to show lineup construction in this video, because I just think this is the week for it. This is a very, very interesting slate. So let's just dive right into it and talk about it. I can already tell this is going to be a long video, but look, I do this type of stuff each and every week, and normally I don't see it being a good use of my time to do it for one of these preview videos and stuff, but I think for this week it is. And so let's go ahead and look at projected points I got for everybody right now. Some of this might change between now and Sunday, but I really don't think it is going to change a ton. So when we're looking at Kyle Larson, I capped him off at 100. If he goes over 100, even if he goes over like 90, he's in the optimal lineup. I find it difficult to believe that he's not optimal this weekend. And that's another fact. Like, we're building, at least in my opinion, we're building lineups with 5 drivers. And on FanDuel, I think you're building a lineup with 4 drivers, because we're putting Larson in there. We're assuming Larson is optimal, and that's not being lazy, but that's talking about, like, hey, this is Kyle Larson, the man who has been the shit this year at the intermediate tracks. And so when we're looking at Larson, he's optimal. I didn't even bother giving him over 100 points, because at that point he's going to be optimal. But right now I have him projected for 59 laps led, 91 fast laps, winning the race and everything like that. Like, 100 points just makes sense for me. I'm going to keep him there. Now, when we get to people like Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Blaney, Logano, and Elliott, you can see right here the FPPK fantasy points per $1,000, basically the value, what their value is. So, like, I got Larson for a 9.5. I got Hamlin for a 6.7, and so on and so forth. And you can see here. Now, before we start talking about the guys who are leading laps and everything, like, let's look at this. How many legit guys do we have projected? And 12 is a lot for Timmy Hill. Don't give me shit about that. I just threw it in there to see if it would give him anything. But how many 5X guys are we seeing in this race? 1. I'm not counting Bowman, because that's coming from fast laps and laps led. Same thing with Byron. Things that could be easily not go their way. And so right now it's just Harvick. Reddick is on the fringe, but I'm going to take him out again, because yet again it bumped him over 5X when I gave him fast laps in this race. Same thing with Elliott. And same thing with Larson. Larson's already there. And so who's the 5X value in this race? It was Harvick. Harvick was the only guy I projected for 5X before I started giving fast laps, before I started giving laps let out. And when we look at lineups that are coming out and where the optimizer is wanting to go right now, it's wanting to use, all the salary. Like, I'm seeing lineups that are using 49.9, 49.8, 5 or $50,000 even, and it's wanting to punt because value is that terrible this weekend, at least in my opinion. Right now, it's wanting to go to the cheapest guy, Quinn Hoff. I don't like those types of lineups. I don't like lineups that go Cody Ware. I don't like lineups that go BJ McLeod. I don't like lineups that go Josh Bilicki. I don't like the punt lineups this weekend. I This is just an interesting slate. And so when we're here, we're building lineups with Kyle obviously this weekend. And so who are our other Larson? That is, we're building lineups with Larson this weekend. And so who are our other guys that we're going to fit in there? It's going to be probably either Hamlin, Busch, Blaney, Logano, Elliott, Keselowski, Truex, Byron, or Bowman here. Based on the price that Alex Bowman is at this weekend, let me bring this up. Sorry. Bowman is 93. William Byron is 96. It's extremely uncomfortable and difficult when you put in 3 9K plus drivers into a lineup. And so that's a sense where we're talking Larson and a driver like Bowman, or I got to get this open over here. Sorry. Doing three 9K guys. And so we're already including Larson into that because we're playing Larson this weekend, right? Like, the only reason you're fading Larson is hoping he dies of a heart attack on the track and doesn't score well. And so say if you either go, if you go Larson and Byron, or Larson and Bowman, for example, that's 75-0 left on average for each player. And so if you play a guy who should actually show up and be fast, whether it be Hamlin, whether it be Elliott, whether it be Kyle Busch, you throw 3 of those guys in there. So you have Larson, Bowman, and Elliott. That leaves you $6,700 on the table to build the rest of your line. And the what is it? The projections this week are just atrocious for drivers who are below that 6K range. And so when we go ahead and look at the 6K drivers, let me bring this up at another tab. Hey, sorry, I had to spend time to get this up on the screen and everything. But when we look at, say, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with, if you got Larson, Bowman, and Elliott in a line, just for an example, building guys who you think are actually going to lead. Like, when we look at this race, the scenarios that I see that are realistic is Larson walks away with this race, leads the entire thing like Coca-Cola 600. Or Larson and another dominator take turns leading laps the entire day. And the only way the other guy is going to get in front of Larson is most likely going to be on a pit stop, either entering stage 2 or stage 3. I doubt it's going to happen under green flag pit stops. I doubt it's going to happen if outside of pit road. Like, I think pit road is going to decide this race in terms of if Larson doesn't get the lead at some point in this race. And so it's either Larson leading the entire race or Larson and driver, let's say A, leading another chunk of the race. And so you have the 2 dominators. And then if you're wanting to chase the upside of Byron and Bowman, for an example. And so that leaves you $6,700 left on the table. And so when we look at where we're going, so say if 6,700 is our place where we want to go to. So we'll put our little imaginary line right here because we can't afford Justin Haley. These are the drivers that we're at. These are the DraftKings points, personally, we're looking at. You might be like, why are you giving Eric Jones 21 DraftKings points here? He's a way better driver. I don't see Eric Jones finishing any better than 21st. Even if you start giving Jones more and more positions, like if you give Eric Jones 3 positions gained, that's still 27 points. If you give him, 5 positions pass, that's 31 points. Give him 8, that's 37 points. Like, I don't see him passing 8 drivers and finishing up there. I see Jones finishing 21st today, which just so happens he's getting 21 points for that position. And then, when we get to Chris Buescher, a guy who is starting 10th place, like, you cannot tell me Chris Buescher is going to show up like he did at Homestead this week. Like, he's going to be finishing around 15th, around 14th at like the best case scenario. No fast laps for me, no laps led for me from Chris Buescher. And so Buescher's at 24. You go to Bubba Wallace. What is Wallace going to do in this race? When we look at how he's done this year, he's a fringe top 10 car, but he's mainly between 16th and 22nd under these intermediate tracks. When we look at the tracks that actually matter this year, and I open them up here. When we look at the tracks that actually matter this year, like, let's just take a gander at Bubba's finish at Las Vegas. Okay, he finished 16th. I think that was a good day because the Hendrick guys just fucked themselves over by being a bunch of idiots on pit road. If anything, Bubba should have probably finished better at Las Vegas when you take out, 3 of the top dogs in the Hendrick stable. You go to Darlington, 21st place finish. When you go to Michigan, 19th. Like, That's not that good. You know, an outstanding day. His race at Atlanta 2, had a race rating of 16th. He finishes 16th. Like, that's a good day for Bubba. 14th place finish at Charlotte, which I've said before. I think Charlotte is a great indicator of where you are this year, and I still think it is. What are we giving Bubba? I'm giving him 29 points. Like, I don't see Bubba Wallace doing much of anything here. And then we go to Cole Custer, you know, at 17 points. What are we doing with Cole Custer? Like, he hasn't done anything. I've been saying in the live shows, like, we've seen Cole Custer, like, legit off pace. Like, enough off pace to where you forget he's even in the Cup Series, because he's literally racing the Rick Ware cars for, like, the back half of the top 20. Check out these race ratings of as of late. 30th at Las Vegas, 27th at Michigan, 20th at Atlanta 2. Okay, we see improvement. Where is he starting? 20th. Okay, that doesn't do anything for us, Cole Custer. What are we doing here? Pocono, 27th, 37th. Not looking great. Nashville, a track that I think you can look at and take away from, because I think Nashville and Texas are going to race extremely similar. But this is a different package. And so this is where, you know, I see Nashville 16th. Like, okay, that's 4 positions gained. That's in a different package. I don't see Custer really doing that. We go to Charlotte, 26th race rating. Dover, 18th. Darlington, 1, 28th. Kansas, number 1, 27th race rating. Like, what are we doing here? Like, we can't project Cole Custer to blow the doors off of us, so we got to give him like 17 DraftKings points. He's overpriced. A lot of these guys are overpriced. I don't have a single one of these guys below $6,000 projected for over 30 points today. And now, if somebody wrecks, yes, they can gain positions, but like, I'm imagining this is a really green race. It has to be. Texas is always a pretty green race. I say that, and I truly believe NASCAR will throw a Phantom Yellow with about 50 to go to try and get the field back together, just like they did at Charlotte. They did not give Elliott a black flag, and I touched on this in Cruise Control that I recorded yesterday. They did not give Elliott a black flag because they knew it would be a yellow when that came off, and they needed a yellow to stack the field back up and make the end interesting. You act like I'm crazy, but that's what they did. Why did they throw a debris caution milliseconds after Elliott lost the rear bumper cover of that car? It's because NASCAR needed that yellow. NASCAR needs yellows at Texas to make it interesting, because this is by far the worst designed track on the circuit. I still say New Hampshire's a poorly designed track, but at least they've been consistent. They destroyed the old Texas for this one lane, this one groove snore fest. Like, this is the worst place to buy a ticket for if you're a NASCAR fan. Like, I would not waste money buying a ticket to Texas. And I live in Texas. I'm closer to Texas Motor Speedway than I am to Phoenix, and I'm driving to Phoenix in a month. Okay? Like, I'm not going to Texas. It's a bad race. They even killed it for IndyCar with their PJ1, so now they're using the resin. It's a one-groove racetrack, and so the only places you're passing anybody here is on restarts. And you have about a lap and a half to do that. I would argue maybe about 2 corners. Honestly, if you don't get a run out of 2 to pass somebody down the back straightaway, you're going to stay there the entire run. And so that's NASCAR's plan. Like, if NASCAR wants to make it interesting and not have Larson kill the field by 15 seconds, they have to throw a yellow with like 50 to go. So we can't predict that, because, you know, NASCAR's WWE, which is a reason why I don't really care about this stuff anymore. But when we look at projections, like, I don't see anybody above 30 points. And so, in my opinion, I disagree with the Bowman and Byron play at the moment. Let me bring up this optimizer to see if it agrees with me or not. And sorry, I spent so long messing with this optimizer, I forgot exactly the word I left off on. But I'm pretty sure I was going to touch on the fact that I disagree with using Byron and Bowman. And no, I haven't seen anything. I don't think anybody's made anything this weekend yet. But I just foresee Bowman and Byron being chalk, because people are either going to want to play Larson and another lap leader, or Larson and Bowman and Byron, or just Larson, Bowman, or Byron. And I don't like that. My optimizer is showing me that Byron has a higher chance of working out than Bowman. Even with that, I don't like that build. I think everybody's going to be going that way. And when we're looking at tournament strategy, and that's why I wanted to approach this video in this way of actually showing the projection and explaining why I really don't believe that a Larson and Byron and Bowman, or or let me change that. I really don't think Byron or Bowman are optimal this weekend. Yes, you can score well. Yes, you can score extremely high. I think my 4th or 5th highest lineup right now has Byron in it. But when we're looking at optimal, and when we're looking at a sense of, I either think you make a crap ton of lines and just cover a lot of bases, or you make one line. I think if you're in a 20 max and you enter 10 lineups, personally, at least this weekend, I don't think there's an edge there for you. If you're in a 150 max and you enter 8 lines or 30 lines, I don't think there's much of an edge for you, because the lineups you make should already be covered by guys building 150 lineups with this in mind. And so, like, I just don't want to be on Byron or Bowman this weekend. And you see my projections right here. I have them scored well. I think they're going to be fine. I just think their ownership, based on how likely they are to be optimal, is going to be higher than what they actually should be owned. And I just foresee them being chalked, because everybody is wanting to either bet them. They see, them starting positions, and they see that they're going to give place differential. And I don't like it. I just really, really do not like it. My highest lineup right now does not have those guys. And the reason is because my lineups and the way I'm building this weekend, I'm actually trying to stay above and use as many guys above 6,800 as I can, because I would much rather pay up, say for an example, for like, Matt DiBenedetto. Let's say he has 32 points. I don't necessarily like his value in this one here. I got DiBenedetto for 4.3 value. But if I can afford him, I will much rather take the 12 points he gives me over, Eric Jones for a little bit cheaper. But, like, I need the points. And in a situation where Larson can scoop up nearly every fast lap and laps led, and if he doesn't, it's most likely the second dominator, I think a lot of lineups are going to be extremely tight. Like, I think first place through probably 200 in that $15 tournament, unless the highest lineup just has guys that are completely low owned and some guys get wrecked and things really fall out of proportion. I really think those positions are going to be probably 11, 12, maybe 15 points at max, 15 points of being different, and that's not even including duplicated lineups. And so this is a very, very tight week on scoring. And so because of that, my lineups are embracing that, hey, we might not have a 5x value from every single one of our guys, and that's okay. Like, when we get to who we want to use as our second dominator, it's not following. I have Harvick projected for some fast laps, and I have him hitting value on place differential alone. When we look at how Harvick has ran this year, Harvick is a let me bring this up. Sorry. Harvick is a guy that is most likely going to be running 10th to 6th when it comes to Sunday's race. I would have to imagine Harvick ends up finishing around 7th or 6th on Sunday. Just doing that alone is going to give him 5x. Just doing that alone is going to elevate him to being one of the higher scoring drivers today. And I still think he's underpriced. I think him and Larson are oddly the most expensive, and I think they're oddly the most underpriced, because if Harvick is that quick and able to get into the top 10 and actually shows up at a track where he is going to run well at, like, not only just due to it being Texas, but we're seeing Harvick actually show up and race and be fast this year. Like, when we look back at the more recent intermediate tracks and we look at how many Dominator points Harvick has been getting, we see an uptick in the amount that he's been getting. And so I'm going to walk you through the entire season for Harvick. And so when we go to Homestead, 1 Dominator point. Las Vegas, 1, 0. Atlanta, 5. Kansas, 1, 1. Dover, 5. Coca-Cola 600, 11. And then we start getting past the halfway point, and we see him being quicker at intermediate tracks. And so even at Pocono, 2 and 1 between the two races. Then we get to Atlanta, 4, which is oddly higher than what he had at the first Atlanta race, where he got 5. It's not higher, it's the same. Whoopsie. When we get to Darlington 2, and this is the part where we really see the uptick, is he had 11 Dominator points at that race there. And granted, that's because, people pitted and he was able to, basically get in free air and get some laps led there. But I'm happy seeing that, specifically at Bristol as well. Like, I know it's a short track, but when we look at his short track program entering Bristol, wasn't even there. That's why the whole Bristol situation with him and Elliott is because Bristol was the one place Harvick was competitive this year. The only race this year. That might have been, call me crazy, I don't know if Harvick ever wins again in NASCAR. That Bristol race might be the closest Harvick ever gets to winning again in NASCAR. So that's why he's mad at Elliott. But that's encouraging to see. One at Las Vegas, not stupidly encouraging, but see, I'm kind of rethinking here. How many fast laps will I give Harvick? Giving Harvick 13 fast laps at a race with 334 laps. I think that's realistic. That's 5.85 Dominator points from Kevin Harvick, which is why I think Dominator points are stupid, because I don't have him leading laps. I just have him getting 5.8 fast lap points. But I think that works. You can tell I've been here because as I'm going through that Harvick, and I'm like, well, you see, he got better later in the year, and then I'm reading the data. I'm like, well, no, he kind of just stayed there. He's averaging like 2 to 3, at these intermediate tracks. Dominator points, that is. And I think that's going to do it for him. I think him getting, 13, even like 8 fast laps, and him finishing inside the top 10 for Harvick, which I think is legit a place that I want to go, I think he can do that. And I'd honestly much rather chase Harvick over William Byron and over Alex Bowman, just because I don't think Harvick's going to be as owned as he should be. And I'm honestly concerned that Byron doesn't perform as well as we think he will be. When we look at William Byron this year, and these are kind of just my thoughts at this point. You've seen the projections. You kind of know where I'm going at this point. But when we look at William Byron, sure, he's been consistent. And when we look at the intermediate tracks this year, 3 at Atlanta won, 3 Dominator points at Atlanta won. Kansas won, he had 8. Dover 17. Coca-Cola 600 28. Both the Pocono races 8 and 13. Michigan 16, which is encouraging. We get to Darlington 2-1. We get to Las Vegas 2-11. And so I find it hard to believe that Byron is going to absolutely kill the field and get those fast laps and laps led if Larson is doing it. It all goes back to Texas being a one-groove racetrack, and you cannot pass at this track. This is a dirty air track to where if someone is in front of you, you are not getting those fast laps. Texas is still one of the main races to where you see the leader getting the fast laps and the laps led. And that's somewhat of a rarity this year, to where sometimes the leader's getting the laps and then somebody else in the field is getting the fast laps. I think the leader is getting both of them this weekend. And so I'm giving Byron 6 positions gained, 8 laps led, 19 fast laps. That's barely 53.55 points if he doesn't get those fast laps for whatever reason. And in total, that's 10 Dominator points I'm giving him. If he doesn't get any of those, that drops him to 43 points. Like, this is a situation to where, like, we need Byron to get fast laps in this race. We need Bowman to get fast laps in this race. And I don't think they do that with Larson being that dominant, with Hamlin starting up front, even with Kyle Busch starting up front. Same thing with Elliott. Like, if I had to predict who's actually going to get the most amount of fast laps, I have it right now being Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin. Let me change that. I have it being Larson, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Busch. Those are the 4 main guys that I have getting fast laps. And I think that hurts people like Byron and Bowman. And so I've kind of harped enough about those guys. And so where am I wanting to go this weekend? And this is such an interesting race. Like, when we're looking at actual value plays, guys that I think that you should consider, like, we have to go to people like Corey LaJoie. Like, I think LaJoie is the best play under $7,000 this weekend. And so when you're building a lineup and you actually do end up having, let's just say Larson. Let's call him the second Dom. for its simplicity's sake. Then you have LaJoy. Like, that seems like a lineup that I want to build, to where LaJoy is the only guy in this range that I play in terms of pricing. I go with Larson, who's going to do well. Second Dominator, which you could argue that you might not even need the second Dominator if Larson goes out there and kills, to where that might actually default to being Harvick. And so let's say, for example, you do end up going Larson, Kevin Harvick, and LaJoy. That ends up giving you 76,000. 76,000 on average to spend on your remaining 3 drivers. I think this, actually, let's compare that. So let's do that. So we have, let's argue here. So we have Harvick, LaJoy, and Larson. And so we have Harvick, Larson, and LaJoy. So that's 187.55. Let's just say here, what was our past one? We had Larson, Elliott, Bowman. I think that was our last one that we did here. Pretty sure it was. That's 67. I think it was Byron, actually. So let's do Larson, Elliott, and Byron, and let's just compare. Let's see how these kind of cores are going here. This is the fun part of DFS for me. Like, when I can compare different cores and stuff, so Larson, Elliott, Byron, when I can compare different cores and see how things go. Now, this should be a bit higher because it does have 2 actual Dominators in there, but like, how far is that really? Like 211, 211.55. So obviously these are 2 drastically different price ranges, but the difference here, like, is not that huge. Like, I think I can get these points back, paying down for LaJoy, not using Byron, and using other guys like in the 8K range, and using other guys in the 7K range. And I'm doing this to basically not show all the lines I have on this side. I was considering just taking the lines and showing you, but I'll at least won't do that since I'm already showing projections. But like, this is the core I'd actually prefer to build around over these guys, because I feel like when you're here, you know, we got 6,600 left. Who else are we using here? Like, highest guy we have is LaJoy. Outside of that, you're getting somebody maybe Wallace, or you're getting somebody at like 20 points, to where as you're in this range, and we can actually get back up to, say, like Tyler Reddick, or say Austin Dillon, or even people like Christopher Bell or something. Like, I would much rather aim for this area versus be stuck with the construction that this ends up leaving you here in this range. Even if you go LaJoy here with those guys, so what is that? That's $7,000. If you take LaJoy in this line, so what does that leave? That leaves you 7,000, and so that just moves up. That just moves the that lineup to right there. You know, for your average remaining salary for players. Does that really get you a ton? I think Newman's going to be incredibly popular this weekend, despite the fact I don't have him for a ton. Like, I don't think that 30 is hitting value for him. What is it actually? It's 4.2 value. Like, I'm giving Newman 10 positions gained, around a 21st place finish, 22nd place finish. I don't see it much from Newman this weekend. Like, I think that's a pretty good day for Newman. And so you're just left in the same range. Maybe you take Daniel Suarez, but then yet again, you're overpaying for Suarez. It's $6,900. We're giving Daniel Suarez, I'm giving him 18th. Like, that's crazy. Daniel Suarez at a 3.7 value, like, that's insane. So I feel like paying up for 3 guys is a mistake here. For 3 9K guys is a mistake this weekend. That's just how I'm looking at it this week. And I guess we'll go back here and kind of talk about the pool that I actually want to use. And so I think this is where, I guess I'll go ahead and use, we'll use my interest here. And so I think it's yes, I have it there. And I think I have it high, actually. That's I don't remember what I have. Let me look real quick. Hold on. I was gonna use my interest, but I'll just use my ranking. And so this is legit where I think legit ranking, like letter rankings, make a lot of sense. So we're locking in Larson, obviously. If we can get this to go, there we go. So we're playing Larson entirely. I like the idea of playing Hamlin a lot. I like the idea of either using Hamlin or Chase Elliott with Kyle Larson. One or the other. I don't see both of them working. Same thing with Kyle Busch. However, like I'm skeptical on Kyle Busch. Sure, he's starting third. I have him right now projected for 18 laps led, 22 fast laps, finishing around third. You're playing Kyle Busch to play Kyle Busch. I haven't seen enough to say I want to play, like I want to make him a priority. Like right now, my priority either with Larson is Harvick, Hamlin, or Chase Elliott. So for me, Kyle's on the back burner, but he's probably he's the guy that you get to when you make a ton of lines. Like once you make your lineups that you enjoy with Larson and Elliott, or Larson with Hamlin, or Larson with Harvick, then you're like, okay, well, I cover those guys. Okay, now I'll build a couple lineups with Larson and Kyle Busch. He's a like a tertiary option. Like I get to him like third down the list or fourth down the list. Like I'm legit like 20 lineups in before I even start considering playing Kyle Busch. When I'm looking at these lineups, where is he on the optimizer right now? How high is my Kyle Busch line? Let's see, good old KB. Where are we at? Kyle Busch is the first Kyle Busch I see is in my 5th highest projected line. And all the lineups before are a Larson Hamlin, Larson Elliott, Larson Harvick. And so it would be a while before I get to Kyle Busch and I'm building lines. I think you should have him if you're building a lot of lines. If you're not, I don't think you necessarily need to worry about him. Like he's a guy that you're playing a lot of lines, you're going to obviously have ownership to. If not, there's no real reason to go out of your way and force him into lines. Blaney Logano going to be a no for me. Keselowski's going to be there. He's showing up in lines. He is showing up in lines, and mainly because he's so cheap. At $8,500, I think he is a misprice if he can hold that position, which I think he has a chance to. I see Brad Keselowski moving up to around 6th, possibly getting some fast laps here and there. I would honestly feel more comfortable playing Keselowski over Logano or Blaney, and probably even over Kyle Busch. Like he does not need to do a lot here for $8,500. Truex, same argument to be made with Kyle Busch. It's here with Truex. You're getting to him once you cover a lot of bases. I like Reddick a lot this weekend. Reddick seems like a guy for me who is going to run inside the top 10 all day. When you look at how fast he's been this year, he's typically siphoning off some fast laps throughout the race. And so he's a guy that, yet again, if you're playing around Byron or Bowman, like Reddick, I would put on that exact same level. He's a guy who's probably going to try and get fast laps throughout this race. I would not be shocked to see Reddick in the day with 5 to 10 to 15 fast laps throughout a 334 lap event. I think that's doable for Reddick. I like Reddick a lot at this price. I like him a lot, really. Buescher is going to be a flat no for me. Not even really going to bother putting him in line. Same thing with Christopher Bell. I don't see a lot coming from Christopher Bell. What is he going to do? Give me 10th place? Okay. Are you getting me a ton of fast laps? No. Are you getting me a ton of laps led? No. Just not going to be in play for me this weekend. You already know my opinion on Byron and Bowman, and maybe Jordan changes my mind come Sunday. But for me, personally, not playing Byron, not playing Bowman, I don't see that type of build working out. Now, if shit hits the fan, if we get a late race yellow, well, then obviously Byron and Bowman work. But don't shit on me because of a late race restart gives Byron a 8th place finish. Like, you can shit on me if Byron or Bowman shows up and kills this race. But personally, I don't like that build. I'm not going to be using them because I don't see myself building a ton of lines this weekend. That might change, but that's where we're at. I like Austin Dillon, 4.8 value, 34 points. A driver that I think is going to be at the fringe top 10, around 12th, 11th, 10th place all day. We've seen RCR slowly get up there in terms of speed. I like the discount here. I like Austin Dillon. this weekend. McDowell, not going to do it. 19 points, just not going to do it for me. Kurt Busch. Honestly, rather go to Dillon, rather go to Reddick. His real competition is Keselowski. I think it's between Keselowski and Kurt Busch. That's where the real argument is. Bubba Wallace, not going to... Leave him in there. Might get into him in the lines just because you might end up needing another 6K guy in the 6K range, as we just discussed here, is pretty fucking piss poor. It's really, really bad. Wallace and LaJoie seem like the only guys in the 6K range, or he's even in the 5. Like, those are the only two guys there that make sense for me this weekend. Suarez just not going to do it. We've seen him struggle tremendously on the intermediate tracks this year. Cole Custer not going to do it. He's been off pace. We've seen it before. We'll see it again. Eric Jones, same thing, not going to do it there. Eric Almirola. What is a good day for Eric Almirola? Probably around 15th, right? Well, finishing around 15th is only going to get Eric Almirola around 34 points. Not even close to being a 5x value. Overpriced. Yet again, I don't like Eric Almirola in this situation. I'm not a fan of Ryan Preece either. I like Kevin Harvick. I think Harvick can legit be a top 3 scorer in DFS, especially if Larson ends up running away with this race, or if it becomes a one dominator type of lineup. I think that helps Harvick end up making the optimal, probably more than what we're considering here. Chastain, the guy that we've seen be very quick as of late. I think he's around a 15th place driver, maybe sighting off some fast laps. I got him with 8 fast laps right now. That's 40.6 points. 4.5 value. Yet again, the guys he's fighting with is between Keselowski, Kurt Busch, and Chastain. Those would be the 3 guys in the 8K range that I think... not I think. It's those 3 in the 8K range. Those are the only guys in the 8K range that I find that I can make an argument for playing. My main concern with Chastain is... his recent performances as of late at intermediate tracks. Obviously, he had some good runs at Atlanta early in the year. But as we go and look at how he's been running lately, compared to his race rating, Las Vegas 2, 19th. He ends up finishing 23rd at Las Vegas 2. At Darlington 2, race rating of 5th. Finished 5th, which is probably his best race this year based on pure speed. We ended up moving to Michigan. 28th race rating at Michigan, ended up finishing 35th. When we look at Atlanta 2, a place that we saw him be extremely fast at the first Atlanta race, 22nd race rating at Atlanta 2, ended up finishing 21st. That is legit concerning. When we get to Pocono, 26th race rating in the second race, 14th in the first race. He ended up finishing 26th and 33rd in both of those races. That's concerning as well. Nashville is good to see, encouraging to see, but same thing with Cole Custer. I just wish I wish it was in the same package. I don't like that Nashville used the 750 horsepower package, which I'm pretty sure they did. I could be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure they used the short track package at Nashville. Could be wrong. I'm sure I'll check it if it's wrong at some point. Coca-Cola 600, obviously that's when they blew the motor. And so we're back all the way in May. And so it's hard for me to see that this team is going to make a ton of improvement if they haven't already and really show up and be, a top 10 contender here in this race. That's why I'm giving Ross Chastain around a 15th place finish. I think that's where he's at. Like I said, he's competing against those other guys in the 8K range. And then once we get to here is a lot of the guys that I just really don't want to bother playing. I think Briscoe is overpriced. We've seen Briscoe slowly get better at intermediate tracks, but I'm giving him 8 place differential points today. Just not going to do it. I just don't see it. Same thing with Stenhouse. I'm concerned with Stenhouse. I'm giving him 8 place differential points as well. These guys are going to be competing for 21st, 22nd, maybe 19th, even 18th. That doesn't give him value. That doesn't hit value. That doesn't hit 5x. When they're in the 7K range, they're only getting, barely a top 20. So I'm not going to go there. And then you kind of already know if I'm using LaJoie, I'm not using Alfredo. I don't want to punt this weekend. I don't want to use Ryan Newman. And so this is it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 guys in the pool this week. That's why I'm saying if you're building a ton of if you build 150 lines with a 13-player player pool, you can cover all the angles you want with those guys. Extend that to around 13, 14, 15, maybe even 16 guys, 150 lineups, using, basically those two guys in the 5K range. Who's that? LaJoie and Bubba. I think Bubba's in the 6K. Yeah, like using these two guys as your lowest drivers that you use. So you have those two covered. You use Larson. You're only really swapping in and out, maybe if you don't use both those guys, LaJoie and Bubba in each line. You're swapping out only 4 drivers per lineup. You can cover a lot of ground there. And so that's why it goes back to this week. It makes a ton of sense to either make a ton of lines or play extremely light. I think if you're somewhere in the middle, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage just because you're leaving opportunities on the table that other people will be exploiting. And that's really it for the Cup Series. I know it's a different type of video. This is the type of stuff that I'd like to do more. Maybe next year, we'll see. It just seemed like this is a perfect race to try and break it down in this form or fashion versus just, oh, well, when you look at project, like, this is how I'm looking at it. And yeah, best of luck. Hopefully you guys enjoy this and tune in Sunday for our live show. Jordan and I, not sure what time we're going live, but we'll keep you updated from there. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.